Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. My name is Prince Boss. Last time was a doozy. We had two boys, named the Skulkin Brothers, coming up to help us. Or, not us, but help fucking Van Zeiks. We're trying to get Gina Lestrade, a friend of our good friends, Iris, Sasato, Mr. Sholmes. They told some lies. We found them out, but those lies led to more proof that it was Gina that did it. So it was, oh boy, this sucks. We also had to do a summation examination. That took forever, and I hope it doesn't take forever this time. Or next time, or whatever this trial is going to be fucking continuing, which is going to be today. Part 2 of the trial. Anyway, with that said, let's get into the video. Also, mic quality, super good, as I've heard from looking back. Looks and sounds amazing. So, again, without any further ado, let's get right back into the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Oh, well, yeah, I guess we'll overwrite again. Then we'll go in. Let's continue.
Order, please, let us resume proceedings. Witnesses, you will now retake the stand.
Probably should have gotten water before this, but who cares? Not me.
I presume you heard the defense counsel's summation examination.
Oh, yeah, Governor. I did, Gov. I did.
Mr. and Mr. Skulkin.
Court, blimey!
It's the other way around, but whatever. This is gonna be hard work. Earlier in this trial, I gave you the following testimony about your actions. You gave the following testimony about your actions after you entered Windybanks. That's a lot of yous.
Well, it was bedlam soon wasn't it? It was, Nash, it was. Didn't even have time to pull me jokes out me Lucy Lockets.
However, that was a lie. You brothers.
Court, blimey!
On the night in question, you rifled through the items on the victim's counter.
We never done nothing of the sort. How'd you figure that out?
Well,
You will now give formal testimony once again. You will tell the court precisely what happened on the night in question, and this time, you will tell the truth.
each lie that passes your lips, sir, serves to increase the severity of your punishment. I cannot speak. And that, gentlemen, may deal a crushing blow to your chances of ever seeing the light of day again. Just love this guy's face. A thought worth pondering, perhaps.
Say no more, Gov. We'll blab, we'll squeak, we'll preach.
Well, that's good. Now they look so innocent. Especially this guy. He looks like a dog. Illegal entry, the whole truth.
Alright, we did knock a few things over, but we weren't rifled for nothing. It was when we heard the gunshot see. Made us both jump and after all that stuff went flying. Lummy, it didn't even have to give me a fright. We was thinking the shit had come out the door and get us next. We stuck everything back where we found it and scabbed it straight into him on the back, in the black. We couldn't have shot the pawnbroker, see. We never even had a chance, did we?
Was I saying that you shot the guy?
So you admit to the defense's accusation. You did indeed ransack Mr. Windybank's countertop on the night in question.
Not ransack, Governor, no. That's right, Ash, that's right. It's more like we tidied up, yeah. Sorry.
By their own admission, these brothers entered the pawnbrokery under dubious circumstances. However, they panicked and fled on hearing the gunshot, having first made good their mess.
The way you say it, we hardly sound like roughs at all. We don't, Ash, we don't. Can't he make us sound a bit more cutthroat?
It can't just be a coincidence that these men showed up at Windybanks that night. There's more to their testimony than meets the eye. I'm sure of it. Also, I have to, calm down with the voices. I am sorry. My throat hurts too much for it. Alright, knock a few things over.
Hold it!
If that's the case, then why didn't you testify to that effect in the first place?
Well, you know, we ain't exactly squeaky clean, are we? We ain't, Nash, we ain't. If we admitted to something like that, people would think we was up to no good. Well said, Ringo. Me old China. We'd only ever land ourselves in even more trouble.
And in fact now, as a result of lying in your previous testimony, that's exactly what you've done, landed yourselves in even more trouble.
That's rotten luck.
Says the rotten apple eater. Witnesses, explain your actions to the court. Why did you ransack the victim's counter?
We never ransacked nothing. Right, Ash, right. More like we tidied the place up.
Uh-oh.
Sorry.
When we heard the gunshot, it made us both jump and all that stuff. I'm flying.
Hold it!
So, what you're saying is, the sound of the gunshot shocked you so much, you knocked all the things off the counter.
Well, it shocked one of us that much, yeah? This bag of nerves needs to learn to keep his shirt on. Look, it was loud, right? Blimey, me and dead granny would have woken up by that bang. Big Grovia scampered like a bloomin' baby and fell over the counter. He knocked over a load of books, a candlestick, and some skull whatnot. I got all tangled in some... tangled up in some marionette. What knocked over a picture frame? What knocked the scales off the floor? You've really mastered working quietly, then. What a rocket! Big Granny would have been scared back into a grave out of climbing like that. So in short, the gunshot took you by surprise. It did so. I mean, it was quiet like a mouse, and then all of a sudden, BAM!
Excuse me.
Inspector Gregson, do you have something to add? Like I keep saying, I don't appreciate being lumped in with these scoundrels. No, something to add about their testimony. You seem to react, just now, at what Mr. Skulkin said. Did it make you think of something? It's probably nothing, of course. I wouldn't even bother to mention it, only. Well, the fact is, cases don't get solved if you ignore the little details. How about you just tell us what's on your mind? As you know, we brought these fellas in to the yard for questioning last night. And the statement they gave then told a slightly different story to what they're saying now. Did it? You claimed you heard the victim shout something out before the gunshot. Might have, Gov, might have. Does ring a bell now that you mention it. Granted, it's only a minor detail, but still. I can't help feeling like perhaps you've been a bit sloppy with your testimony here, huh, fellas? If I discover the witness's testimony has been any more sloppy than it has hitherto been proven to be, I shall be forced to bring the very harshest punishment to bear against them.
Easy, easy. I'll get it right this time. That's it, yep. It's all coming back to me now.
Then speak. Supplement your testimony with whatever details have miraculously returned to your questionable minds, sirs.
Right you are, Gov.
For the gunshot, we heard a voice yelling out, "Give me that gun!"
Hold it!
So, in fact, you heard a voice and the gunshot almost simultaneously.
We did, Gov, we did. Oh, no, I suppose if you're being honest, they heard a kind of wavering voice before the yell and all. If you don't want to get shot, give me that gun. But, quite a thing.
A career in acting tragically missed. And where were those voices coming from? Could you tell?
Of course we could. From the other side of that door being in the counter, it was.
From the storeroom, where the victim was found dead. And the voice you heard, it was that of the victim, Mr. Windybank.
I mean Granny's life. Of course it was.
Is on his Granny's life, of course it was. I keep switching up between the two. I'm sorry if you guys are getting so confused. So, that would mean that you both knew Mr. Windybank and the sound of his voice.
So that would mean what? What, Nash? What? Any ideas?
Yes, Counsel, indeed it would.
Nah. We didn't know the geezer. How am I supposed to deny it when the bloke in all the fancy clobbers giving us the evil eye?
If you value your lives, you will ensure your testimony is accurate and true.
On me Granny's life it is. On his Granny's life it must be.
It's a good job as Granny's dead. Summarize then. Immediately after hearing the voice of the victim, you then heard the gunshot, causing you to stumble and upset the items on the counter, clattering them over the shop floor.
Yeah, make it sound like we're clumsy. Don't forget we tie it up like good little boys. Yeah, anyway, the way I see it.
The bloke what owned the place was holding a gun, so he should have fired instead of yelling at the girl.
Hold it!
You're saying that Mr. Windybank had a gun in his hands?
Oh yeah, bet that was a sight, huh? Two of them waving them guns at each other. Must have been pretty heated. I mean, just before he shouted out, we heard the geezer say, "If you don't want to get shot." It really sounded like he meant it, right? More like an empty threat, you could say.
Mr. Windybank was known to keep a revolver on his shop counter at all times. People say that to protect the articles in his keeping, he'd readily put a bullet in someone's head if required. That someone being himself, of course.
Good grief! Extraordinary devotion! Indeed, if alarmingly misguided.
Well, he certainly sounded like he was ready to pull the trigger the other night. Only.
Sorry.
Only the person he was going to shoot beat him to it. Cooked his goose pepper proper.
Pepper. Where'd I get pepper?
Then he washed Bet he wished he squeezed the trigger instead of wasting time shouting, "Give me the gun."
That was directly, and it was directly after those words that you heard the gunshot.
It was more or less the same time. Give me that gun!
Bam.
Kind of thing.
Yes, a career in acting very tragically missed.
Then we heard the sound of someone hitting the deck.
Well, everything went dead quiet.
After that, we done a slapdash job tidying the place up.
That doesn't seem right. He didn't have a gun. Right?
Objection!
Alright. So you're saying... I was thinking back about the action they did, and there was no possible way for him to jump at her if he was behind her, or if he was looking away. That on the night in question, the victim, Mr. Windybank, was wielding a gun. Is that correct?
That's it, Guff. You got the picture. Yes, Nash, yes. No question.
And yet, photographic evidence obtained immediately after the incident clearly shows that Mr. Windybank was not holding a firearm of any description.
You what? Gordon Bennett, this ain't right.
Objection!
There can be no question that the victim's revolver was used in the incident. I would remind the court that Mr. Windybank's gun was found at the scene. Not only was it identified as the murder weapon, but it was found in the accused's hands. Boop, boop, boop.
Yeah, that Tulo used the victim's own gun to finish him off. Give me that gun! Bam! Kind of thing.
Hold it!
Stay exactly where you are, right there.
Eh?
If the crime had taken place as you've so colorfully described in your testimony, it would give rise to an undeniable and significant inconsistency in the final moments you just acted out. Goodness! Are you sure, counsel? You intrigue me, my learned friend, but let's see some evidence to support your claim. Where's the proof that demonstrates this inconsistency to Witness's portrayal of the final moments? Well, it's super simple. The autopsy report died from a bullet wound to the back.
Take that!
According to their testimony, the witnesses claim to have heard a shout of, "Give me that gun," followed by the gunshot. Indeed, with the two events happening almost simultaneously, or so we've been led to believe. Yes, that's right. Now, if that testimony is true, it would mean that at the moment of death, the victim and his attacker would have been facing each other. However, in the autopsy report, it clearly states that the victim died instantaneously after being shot from behind. So, as I stated before, there is an undeniable inconsistency in your testimony, Mr. and Mr. Skulkin.
Yeah.
Don't fall off your little box there.
But it's on the God's honest truth. It is, Nash, it is. When he was shot that night, the shopkeeper had his gun in his hand. We saw it with our own bleeding eyes.
Did I hear you right now?
You actually saw Mr. Winniebank holding a gun?
Something like that might have slipped out.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have just heard the admission by these two witnesses that on the night in question, they actually saw with their own eyes the victim wielding a gun. Which can only mean that despite their testimony to the contrary, the Skulkin brothers must have encountered the victim in person.
Dash.
I'm not doing that again.
Order! 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 Witnesses, explain yourself at once.
Well, the thing is, it was supposed to...
It would seem that my previous warning fell on deaf ears. I made it quite clear that false witness would be the death of you.
You might understand that you would place the untruths of your original testimony with renewed lies.
Ever so sorry, Governor. The truth is, see, we, Cut it out, Dash, cut it out. If we blab now, you know what it'll do to us.
He? What are they talking about? Let me make your position here perfectly clear. You will talk. There is no other option available to you.
Ruff, come on.
The game's up. Alright, I'll be right back. Alright, boys and girls, I'm back. Got me some water. Good, sweet, beautiful water. Back to the game. In case it hasn't quite sunk in yet, no matter how hard you try to hide it, the truth will come out.
On the night in question, it is now apparent that you brothers met face to face with the victim. I demand that you testify again to explain the precise circumstances under which this meeting took place.
Well, do we have to?
On pain of death, I suggest you make yourself fully aware that this is your very last chance to tell the truth. Ooh, hey. Alright. Encounter with the victim.
Alright, so we just got inside the gaff and if the sight of relief when the geezer showed us his mug. Give me that gun, he bellowed. And then he flew at us like he was possessed. I thought we had it. For an old geezer, the bloke was strong as an ox. He chucked me over the counter.
He pulled me gun on him.
Sorry.
I pulled me gun on him. I pulled me gun on him, and then he legged it through the door and into the back room. We never had nothing to do with killing him. That's all what happened, I swear.
So you're now telling us that moments before the victim was killed in the storeroom, you in fact encountered him in the main part of the shop?
Well, yeah.
Sorry.
Well, we find ourselves at an interesting juncture. This changes matters considerably.
But honest, Governor, this time, Nash, this time, we ain't got nothing more to hide.
Very well. Counsel for the defense, you may proceed with your cross-examination.
Yes, my lord. This is it. The moment I've been waiting for. And they told the truth. This is what it's going to be, right? They told the truth. counter with the victim.
Hold it!
When you say geezer, I presume you mean the victim and proprietor of the shop, Mr. Winniebank.
Who else? Sorry, I mean, that's right. We was keeping a close eye on the entrance to the gaff, obviously. But we never thought no one was going to come out of the back room like that.
The back room being the pawnbrokery storeroom?
Yeah, that must have been where he popped up from. Only place it could have been.
So it would seem the victim was already in the storeroom when these brothers entered the premises.
Which means Jeannie must have been in there at that point as well.
But that doesn't make sense, does it? If Gina had threatened Mr. Winniebank in the storeroom with her at gunpoint, then why would he have emerged from the same room all alone when the brothers arrived?
Oh, I don't know.
Did you see the accused at the time?
What? That bold toddler? Couldn't tell you. No way, Cobbler. We had bigger fish to fry then. I mean, the old geezer just lost it.
Alright.
Hold it!
My brain's fried. I have no idea what they're talking about. You mentioned that Mr. Winniebank shouted those words in your previous testimony, too. However, you claim that you heard him yelling them on the other side of the storeroom door.
Oh, did we?
But the truth is, he was shouting those words at you, wasn't he?
Well, yeah.
Was the victim, Mr. Winniebank, wielding a gun at the time?
Was he ever? Blimey, lummy, a great ugly barrel he had, pointed straight at me front piece.
So what you're saying is, you definitely saw Mr. Winniebank with the gun at that time. Is that right?
It is, Goff. It is. Spot on. Then all of a sudden he came out. It's like, he did it. It was bedlam. I didn't know who was going for who.
You were clearly all going for each other.
Like Nash said, we thought we had it. I mean, for an old geezer, the blood was strong as an ox.
Hold it!
Yes, I noted that you mentioned the counter on your previous testimony, too.
Well, yeah, of course we did. He knocked over a load of books, a candlestick, and some skull whatnot. That got tangled in some marionette. One knocked over a picture frame, one knocked over them scales on the floor.
So, in fact, it wasn't the sound of the gunshot that shocked you and made you knock those things off the counter.
Well, big broke, yeah, went flying over the counter like a gunshot, I can tell you. And the old geezer pinned him. He did, Nash, he did. If he hadn't been there, the bloke would have flattened me like a bloomin' pancake in seconds.
At the time in question, the alarm was raised at the local police station via secret cable from the pawnbrokery. There is a button under the counter used to activate it, which is presumably pressed by the victim. That's right. When the brothers fled the scene and back onto the street, they ran straight into the arriving police, didn't they?
Oh, Mr. Winniebank. He did everything he could to protect his shop.
That door into the back room.
Hold it!
Were you intending to shoot Mr. Winniebank?
No, never. I was just, looking out for me, bro, would I? He was being flanked, don't forget.
By a man whose shop was being burgled, yes. And then, the man fled into the storeroom when you pointed your gun at him. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. He shoved me away, then ran off through that door and shut it himself.
There's something about that last remark. Something that doesn't quite ring true.
I wonder why Mr. Windybank ran into the storeroom.
What?
Well, according to what everyone was saying, Jeannie wasn't there waiting for him with the gun.
Ah, yeah, that's right. Gina allegedly used Mr. Windybank's gun to threaten him and force him to open the storeroom door. In which case, how did the gun end up in Mr. Windybank's hands again?
I have no idea. But that is strange, isn't it?
So inconsistency could be significant. I should make a mental note of it.
Look, the point is, me and me brother. That's right, Ash, that's right. Me and me brother.
Hold it!
You say you had nothing to do with it.
Nothing at all. Nothing, Gov, nothing. The old geezer went and shut himself in the back room, didn't he? No, it was, from the inside. We know it was, because we tried to open it. But it's a decent door, that one. Good and strong. One budget inch.
So in the end, the situation remains unchanged. Inside the storeroom with the pawnbroker, there was only one other person. The sole person who could possibly have shot the victim. The accused, Miss Gina Lestrade.
You would indeed piss her. What say you that, counsel?
I don't know. Was there anyone else apart from Gina that could have possibly shot Mr. Windybank? There could have! Possibly. There could have been. Right. Yeah, in this area. There's plenty of blind spots. Mr. and Mr. Skulkin.
What? What's that look for?
From the moment you admitted that you encountered the victim face to face that night, the course of this trial changed completely.
It did?
What is your point, my learned friend? The question we must answer is, who could have shot Mr. Windybank? And that is the belief of the defense, that the defendant is not the only possible answer at all. You have my attention. In that case, let us return to this plan of the premises. The victim was killed in the storeroom, which was locked from the inside. Those are the facts. So pray, what other possible answer to the question of who shot the man could there be? Counsel, you must now provide answers to the court in respect of two conundrums. Two, my lord? Twice as many chances to be right, maybe?
Indeed. Namely, from what location did the culprit shoot the victim? And furthermore, where was the victim at the time?
Understood, my lord.
Are you alright, Bruno?
I'm not entirely sure, but there's one thing I am sure about. If I can prove that there's a credible new alternative to what happened, it would change Gina's prospects hugely. So now, time for some clarity. Show the court, on this plan, the answers to the question posed by his lordship. If you believe someone else could have killed the victim indicate from where the person could have fired the gun? Back here. In this corner. Right?
Take that!
Yeah. It wouldn't be all the way on that side, because it's between the blind spot of the half an hour mark. So, if that's the case, the only way to shoot through that door would be if you're right next to the goddamn door. The defense believes that the culprit could have shot the victim from this location here. And in answer to the second question, assuming the culprit fired from the location indicated, where was the victim at the time? Right here, on the side of the door. Only make sense.
Take that!
The culprit shot the victim from outside the storeroom. Continue. Mr. Windybank died instantly from a bullet wound in his back. Looking at the stain of blood on the storeroom floor, it doesn't appear that the body was moved after death, which tells us that he was almost certainly shot while he was in the storeroom. However, the crucial point is, where was the shooter when the fatal bullet was fired? So you are adamant the shot was fired from outside the storeroom? Well, according to the Skulkin brothers' earlier testimony,
I pulled my gun on him, and then I legged it through that door to the back room. Getting. Hey.
if Mr. Windybank ran away through that door, we have to assume that the door was open at the time. It was at precisely that moment when the victim was fleeing for his life. Then these brothers had the perfect opportunity to shoot the man in the back once he was inside the storeroom.
Come to think of it, do you remember what the prosecutor said to start the trial?
Moving on to the findings of Scotland Yard's coroner. His report states that the bullet entered the body on a rising diagonal trajectory. It means the victim was likely shot by someone significantly shorter in height than himself.
Poor man, shot while he was running as fast as he could to safety.
Ah, of course. He would have been leaning forward as he was running away. So even if the bullet fired horizontally, it would still have entered his body on an upward trajectory.
So the culprit isn't necessarily someone shorter than Mr. Windybank.
Objection!
I'm sure my learned friend can't have forgotten. The storeroom door was found closed and locked from the inside. You claimed the victim was shot as he fled into the room. Do you also claim his corpse was dexterous enough to turn the key in the lock? But what if someone else locked the door? Yes, there is someone else who could have locked the storeroom door. Is that so?
Very well then, counsel. Present your hypothesis to the court. In the scenario just described, the defense's assertion is that the victim was shot from outside the storeroom. In which case, who shut and locked the storeroom door from the inside?
Gina.
Take that!
She's the only other person inside that room. Obviously, the person who locked the door was the only other person inside the storeroom at the time. The defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade.
Objection!
That's absurd! You're suggesting that the accused deliberately engineered the sealed room? For what possible reason? Such actions would only serve to tighten the noose around her neck.
I am inclined to agree, I must say. Well, counsel?
Yes, that's a tricky one. That, isn't it?
Half-baked notions have no place in my courtroom, counsel. Remember that, please. But of course, Jeannie would have locked the door. It almost goes without saying, doesn't it?
It does?
Well, if it was Jeannie in that situation, I know I would have locked the door as quickly as I could. I mean, those two burglars had just fired a gun in her direction, hadn't they?
Oh, yes. Obviously. Before the two brothers arrived, Miss Lestrade and Mr. Windybank were in the storeroom together. Now, I don't know what went on between them at that time, but at some point, Mr. Windybank must have heard the intruders breaking into a shop and left the storeroom.
Intruders, eh? That's us, bruv.
If your theory is correct, that would leave the accused alone in the storeroom. Yes, it would. Then, probably only moments later, the victim fled back to the storeroom door, hoping to escape danger. Hit in the back by a bullet, Mr. Windybank fell on the floor where he was, just inside the storeroom. And what we have to ask ourselves now is, what would the defendant have done in that moment?
I see where you go with this.
Outside the storeroom was a terrifying killer who had just murdered Mr. Windybank. As soon as that thought struck Miss Lestrade, she slammed the door shut and locked it. In order to save her own life.
Hold it!
But I mean, we aren't the ones who done it. We ain't cop, we ain't. You gotta believe us. I mean, come on. We never shoot no one.
That's blatantly untrue. I know for a fact that you would. Because before my own eyes, you shot Mr. Herlock Sholmes. There's only one logical conclusion here. Mr. and Mr. Skulkin, you brothers had every opportunity to have been the true perpetrators of Mr. Windybank's murder. Not doing that?
Where does this leave us?
You mean to say it wasn't the pickpocket who shot the pawnbroker after all?
I should have known it was those three brothers. Look as shady as a dense forest.
That was amazing, Runo! All the members of the jury seem to be firmly on your side now.
I know, first time ever, and probably the last.
Well, I think you've done it. Surely they've given a verdict of not.
An admirable effort, my learned friend. Oh, is it because it only has one single round? What is this now? He's laughing?
You find the situation amusing, Lord Van Zeiks. I myself find the defense's argument most persuasive.
I dare say. Such... What? Chicanery is the bread and butter of the street performers of your fucking provincial eastern nation. Such blatantly malicious conjuring tricks amount to nothing more than inexcusable pedophagy here.
What?
The hypothesis you put forward so ostensibly, credibly, cannot and will not stand. Because, you see, it contains a fatal flaw. A fatal flaw? Do you mean to tell me that you're unaware of your logic's failing?
I say, Lord Van Zeiks, I might be an idea to explain this bally conjuring trick, or whatever it is, to the troops on the ground.
The fatal flaw in my learned friend argument is really very simple to understand. Assuming you're not too dim-witted to count bullets. By George, count bullets! I can't do those jury voices.
Oh dear. You noticed them?
Huh? What's everyone talking about? Counsel. Yes, sir. Tell the court how many bullets were found at the scene of the crime. Two. 2 bullets. Correct. The first, that which hit the victim in the back, ending his life. And the second, that which struck the detective, Mr. Herlock Sholmes, on his arrival to the scene.
Indeed. The defense presented a picture showing the damage caused by the second bullet early in the proceedings. The bullet which injured Mr. Sholmes appears to have passed through his body to strike the calendar.
Your lordship's understanding is correct. Furthermore, we know that there are 2 firearms involved in the incident. The revolver belonging to the victim, Mr. Windybank, and the Skulkin Brothers revolver. The evidence shows that a single bullet was fired from each gun.
Yes, it indeed does. A single bullet from each.
Now then, my learned friend. Uh-oh. You yourself told the court only moments ago that these 2 brothers shot Mr. Herlock Sholmes right before your eyes. Yes, I did.
Oh my goodness. I think you'll find if the single bullet was fired from the brother's gun hit Mr. Herlock Sholmes, it means Windybank not shot by same gun. Stop. Only 1 bullet. Stop.
Exactly. Yes, this nippity street performer presented an ostensibly credible argument. However, it was never anything more than a diversionary trick with no hope of standing up to scrutiny.
Order! Order! Order!
Pray forgive the discourtesy of flinging the dregs of this hollowed nectar into the public gallery.
Lord Van Zeiks!
But this court needs to open its eyes. The accused, Miss Gina Lestrade, is no ordinary little girl. Despite her young years, she can, regrettably, no longer be described as a juvenile. No, the person in the dock is far from a law-abiding citizen. She has a past riddled with criminal conduct. The truth is, the accused broke into the pawnbrokery on the night in question with loathsome intent. As we can see beyond doubt in this print, which depicts her threatening the victim with the murder weapon. Uh-oh. And I have here in my possession one more piece of evidence the prosecution wishes to present. The disc! I'll be taking that whatever it is of Mr. McGilded's down to the yard, thank you very much. No, don't! Don't give it to him! It's mine! That is, mine! I'm sorry, miss. But anything belonging to McGilded has to be taken in as evidence now. Yes, that music box disc. McGilded's music box disc. The very day before the hateful murder of Mr. Windybank, the accused attempted to make off with this article, which clearly didn't belong to her. And with none of the subtlety of a pickpocket, I might add, but by brute force and brazen imprudence.
Good gracious!
Make no mistake, any sympathy for the accused on account of her years is misguided and dangerous. There are no depths to which this girl would not stoop if pushed. No crime she would not commit. The court forgets that fact at its peril. Boy.
I see. I think it would be prudent to take this music box disc into evidence counsel. As a grim test...
Oh, okay. Lord Van Zeiks, Inspector Gregson. What? Yes, Inspector. We had a meeting yesterday at the yard, the prosecution service, and, I think it was agreed that the disc wouldn't be used as evidence. What's this all about? Why is the inspector acting strangely? That's the first time he said anything to Van Zeiks at all. I am unaware of any such meeting. But those were the instructions right from the top. The government bigwigs were incessant. Inspector, I am the prosecutor, and I alone determine how to present my case. Your warning is noted. Thank you. The prosecution wishes to proceed with submitting this disc as evidence, my lord.
Indeed. Bailiff!
The prosecution has established the accused's motive, opportunity, and baseness for character. There is nothing more to add. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I await your informed decisions and rest my case. I don't believe it. I had the jury on my side for once. For all of 5 minutes.
Oh dear, it wasn't even for 5 minutes, Bruno.
My lord. Wonder if I might say something at this point.
Proceed, Mr. Foreman.
Been stumbling about in a bit of a fog up till now, if truth be told, but all of a sudden. The answer's bally obvious to me and my men. There's only one thing for it. Oh, no.
Very well. The court will hear from the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, you will present your leanings as to the defendant's culpability.
Guilty.
Here we go.
Guilty.
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 Love the fucking headbang, dude. And we're back to guilty.
We have a consensus amongst the jury, it seems.
When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains will be the truth.
That's my line! I wrote that! For Hurley! How dare he use it against us!
Don't worry, Iris. I don't think we're finished yet. There's still more to this case than we realize. There must be, because there's one thing that I'm absolutely certain of. Gina did not shoot Windybank. That's beyond any doubt.
Very well. We will proceed with the second summation examination of the day. Mr. Foreman, are you and the other jurors ready?
Gyaradev Squadron is primed and ready for action, sir. I keep giving him, like, the wrong voice every time he comes up.
Very good. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will each explain on what grounds you have now determined the defendant to be guilty.
Once a rogue, always a rogue, I say. Different breed to us law-abiding citizen.
As only 2 bullets were found at the scene, I would say the whole case is done and dusted.
You don't need a You don't need a stereoscope to see the truth here. Every which way you look at it. It was that pickpocket.
I never imagined that simple operation would cause me such grief.
The accused attempted a theft on the previous day. I can see that I'm in for a busy day ahead. I am ballistic expert. I have seen many shootings. There is nothing I do not know about guns.
Oh, it seems there's no remaining room for doubt.
I have to admit, I was rather bold by that argument put forward by the chap in black. But when that fell apart like a house of cards, I saw that I'd be jolly well been hoodwinked. Well, no more. The whole courtroom is turning against me.
It's not fair!
Harris?
That prosecutor's being mean! Just because Jeannie's done something she shouldn't have done in the past, that doesn't make her a murderer!
Allow me to savor this fruity vintage while I savor the spectacle of your foolish debate on the matter. Here's to the truth coming out. Eventually.
That's enough preamble. Counsel, proceed with the summation examination.
Yes, my lord. Idiot sandwich. Let's go! This guy. What do you mean?
Hold it!
Would you please stop muttering about things that have nothing to do with this trial, sir? The defendant's life is on the line here. Well, the thing is, I couldn't really say that. There's nothing to do with this trial, to be honest. Huh? I mean, there's no question that the man was shot, but the bullet has suddenly vanished from his stomach. You're Mr. Stevens! You're the... Oh my god, you're the Scotland Yard coronary guy? You're the coroner? Oh my god!
It is quite inexplicable, don't you think?
I almost don't want to ask, but this surgery you've been muttering all about this time, you were operating on...
What was the fellow's name now? Ehrlich? No. Airlock? No. Hairlock?
Sherlock Sholmes, by any chance? No fucking way! This is the surgeon for Sherlock Sholmes? Bullshit. I'm calling bullshit.
Yes, good lord. It was that Hairlock fellow. Hairlock fellow.
What? You're the surgeon that operated on Mr. Sholmes?
That's right. Using the very latest anesthesia techniques, I might add. It was a fairly major op, I can tell you.
This is crazy!
Let me see, the fellow was brought in not long after midnight, if I remember correctly. They said he'd been shot by some criminal or other, so I opened him up like a shot. But the funny thing is, he went over his insides with a fine-tooth comb. I couldn't find the bullet anywhere. So I'm afraid I had to throw up my hands and just stitch the fellow back up.
I hate to state the obvious, but...
Yes?
Surely that's because the bullet is still at the scene of the shooting!
The counsel for the defense is correct. Oh, sorry. As is clearly shown in the photographic print.
The bullet that the Skulkin brothers fired at Mr. Sholmes hit him in the stomach region, then exited his body and lodged into the shop wall where the counter was hanging by the door. I think you'll find it's really quite simple if you just consider the problem three-dimensionally.
Ha! Who do you think I am, son?
Well, juror number 4 is about the best I can do.
As soon as I saw the wound in the man's stomach, I flipped him over.
Like a pancake?
Are you saying that you checked his back? Of course I did. And there wasn't a trace of injury. No sign of the bullet has left his body at all.
What? So the green isn't Sholmes.
Okay. That's the point! The only logical conclusion is that the bullet is still somewhere in the man's innards! Which is exactly why I set about slicing him up! And I'm still none the wiser even now. How many times do I have to say it? Can somebody please explain how it happened? Can someone please solve the mystery?
It's almost as much of a mystery as how this jury was put together. Well, this guy says he's a ballistics expert.
Objection.
Those two statements clearly contradict the idea that all I do is pit jurors against each other. Oh, a ballistics expert. Hitting P-A-T-T. On the night in question, Mr. Sholmes was shot by one of the Skulkin brothers. But since there was no sign of an exit wound on his back, we must assume the bullet didn't pass through him. However, no bullet was found lodged in Mr. Sholmes' body either. Furthermore, a bullet was found lodged in the wall of the shop where Mr. Sholmes was shot. Juror number 6. Hello, my name is Velan. Pleased to meet you. This apparent contradiction in the facts that is so clearly troubling juror number 4. Are you able to explain the mystery? I have seen a very similar situation in Motherland. It was night. There was blizzard. I was running away along mountain road in freezing cold. Oh. The snow was piling high on both sides of the road. It was very narrow and dangerous. My pursuers had hunting rifles, and they were on dog sleds. Mental note, don't ask too many questions. I was shot from behind, and I fell down in snow. And the situation was very similar to what I hear today from doctor. They could not find bullet in my body, and no sign of, how do you say, exit wound.
Then where did the bullet go?
Bullet never hit me. I sure hope that hasn't been going on the entire day. The entire video. Oh, please tell me God, no. Oh, no. Is my computer overheating? Okay, well, if it never hit you, why did you fall down? Bullet hit frozen wall of ice very close to my side. What? One small piece, very sharp, broke away from lump of ice and pierced my body. It made deep wound that looked just like bullet wound. Good gracious. Of course, piece of ice quickly melted inside me. And that is solution to mystery of disappearing bullet.
What? That doesn't answer the question at all. The shooting happened in a pawnbroker shop. Not some snowy mountain road in another country.
Just an idea, but we might not be looking at exactly the same scenario here.
Bruno, exactly was Hurley shot again?
Well, according to the report, in his stomach, it was sort of around this area, I think.
Well, that's precisely where he always wears his little pouch on his belt.
A pouch? Actually, I might have noticed something like that.
Yes, a pouch. It's where he keeps 3 glass vials of very dangerous chemicals that he uses in his investigations.
What? Really? Doctor, where's the pouch Mr. Sholmes was wearing? Well, the fellow had nothing like that on his person when he arrived at the hospital, so far as I remember. If I may ask, Lord Van Zeiks? Well, I realize it is forbidden for the prosecution to interject during a summation examination. I should inform the defense that I have the pouch in question in the antechamber outside the courtroom. Sorry? As I understand it, when the police arrived on the scene and found Mr. Sholmes injured, they removed the pouch in order to assess the wound.
Thank goodness. I thought I was getting forgetful for a moment. Since then, it has been in my safekeeping along with all other evidence relating to the case. I can personally vouch for the fact that it has not been touched since the incident occurred. Very well. While extremely unconventional during a summation examination, I must demand the prosecution present the item in question with all speed. Bring forth Mr. Herlock Sholmes' pouch. I see. Oh, one of them is broken. So this is the pouch worn by Mr. Sholmes on the night in question, is it?
Look at that! One of the files is broken, and the leather around it is scorched black. It's almost as if the file exploded. So, that night, the bullet from the Skulkin Brothers' gun struck Mr. Sholmes' pouch.
And it was the glass file exploding that caused the fellow's injury.
This bullet did not penetrate the victim, but was deflected into a wall of shunk. A delightfully complex aroma.
Well, it would appear one mystery has been solved at last, at least.
Though it has no bearing on the truth of this case. The bungling and burgling brothers shot the detective, and the accused shot the pawnbroker. The pertinent facts of the case remain unaltered.
But at least the mystery is solved. I can sleep easy tonight. Thank you, young man.
Thank you very much. Glad I could help.
Due to its bearing on the conundrum just solved, the court will sequester the scruffy pouch as evidence. Are these pouches in scruffy?
I'll have to look at that.
Now, the summation examination. It would appear the defense is somewhat struggling to alter opinion.
Please, my lord, a little more time. After all, there's a new piece of evidence. It could be a valuable clue, and you can't afford to overlook anything here, Ryunosuke. There's still a way to turn this around. Somehow. I'm sure of it. Let me look at the court record. Let me take a look at this guy. It did go through. Oh look, there's a hole here at the back. Doesn't look much like a bullet hole, but clearly something ripped through the leather with great force.
Something must have pierced it somehow or left this hole behind.
Yes, it looks that way. Mr. Sholmes and his pouch both took a beating, didn't they?
Wait a minute! The hell's that?
It's really scorched badly just here.
Oh, the strap is broken. Look!
That must be where the bullet hit then.
Let me see. What the? Iris, look! Behind where the broken file is. Do you see it? Ah! That's the Skulkin Brothers bullet! What a stroke of luck that it hit his pouch. This is an amazing discovery. What this means is, there were 3 bullets fired in Windybanks that night. We found exactly what the juror was talking about! The 3rd bullet! It's time to press that juror again, I think. Hell, yeah! Oh! Is that who I have to present it to?
Do I have to do this again? Then I ask you to reconsider your leanings, sir. Oh, no, that's another matter entirely. Sorry? All I can think about for the moment is this wonderful sense of relief that I have for the mystery is solved. I need some time to let that sink in before I can possibly consider anything else. Alright, I thought surgeons had to be able to think quickly.
Perhaps we should leave him alone for now while he saves his inner peace. And focus on some of the other drills.
I suppose we'll have to. I wish I had the chance to experience inner peace sometime.
Hold it!
Alright. What do you mean, you're in for a busy day? Forgot to say, stop. Excuse me, stop. I am a communications officer, stop. A communications officer? Does that have something to do with sending telegrams? Everything from personal messages written by members of the public to the latest news on the Capitol. I convert all the messages into Morse code and tap it out for the entire world electronically. To the entire world? Thousands of miles of cable under the sea, stop. Worldwide communication network, stop. Information transmitted to and from all corners of the globe, stop. Yes. She was getting equally worked up about radio waves, or the like before, wasn't she? I specialize in communicating information from government departments and newspaper offices. I see. I'm sure I shall have to wire the newspaper reports to today's guilty verdict later. So no sleep for me tonight, I imagine. Let's just finish the trial first, shall we? I am ballistics expert. There's nothing I do not know about guns.
Hold it!
I thought you were just a tourist. Good day. I am visiting London for sightseeing. I would like to take bus to Crystal Tower, please. There's no way he's just a visiting tourist. So, you're a ballistics expert. Who knew? I have much experience with guns. Ah. I have lived through many, how do you say, extreme, violent bath of, blood of,
Extremely violent blood blasts, perhaps?
those extremely violent blood baths. English is very difficult, Considering the sort of people you associate with, I'm surprised you still have a tongue. Anyway, if you have questions about bullets and guns, you ask me. There is nothing I do not know. No mystery I cannot solve. He's very confident in his knowledge of guns, that's for sure. But, if possible, please, only in Russian language.
He's not very confident in his knowledge of English, though, is he?
No. Still, we should bear it in mind. He is our man. He's our man if there's any mystery about guns or bullets.
Really always turns up at just the right moment.
Does he always come in the form of a pouch? Seriously, though, it sounds like the great detective was on death's door. But maybe his injuries won't be for nothing. That pouch could be a very valuable clue.
Hold it!
Hold it! Just because Miss Lestrade has a history of pickpocketing, she must be guilty of murder. Is that what you're saying? Ah, well. Are all members of the British Army so quick to judge? I beg your pardon? Are you mocking Her Majesty's Armed Forces? The greatest military organization in the world? No. I'm simply illustrating my point. Making assumptions about people because they're a soldier or a pickpocket is wrong and dangerous. Well, yes. Might have a point there, I suppose. But let's not forget the girl had already shown that she had it in her from before. She's clearly a criminal sort, through and through, can't deny. When you say that she's shown what she had it in her, are you referring to this? Exactly. Tried to swipe that only a day earlier? Or am I mistaken? Not exactly. Given that I was actually there at the time, it's hard to refute that.
I never actually seen the real thing. I can't wait to have a closer look at it.
Oh, yes, of course. Oh, Mr. Sholmes! No! Mr. Sholmes did use his caramel bars to make a copy of the disc, didn't he? And then ordered every type of music box he could find from across Europe.
We still don't know what tune it plays, though, do we? But I'd love to see how the original compares to Hurley's copy.
A gilded disc. Could it be a clue somehow? Perhaps we should examine it in more detail. I'm guessing that's a clue.
Oh, Bruno, look! This is blood!
Yes, you're right. Just a small smear, but definitely blood. Actually, I feel as though I might have noticed that before.
Haha, then it's my time to shine again! Thought I'd be waiting forever! Alright, let's do with this disc, Bruno.
Can we get this done quickly, Iris?
In a flash! Phew!
What color? Oh, shit! It's green! It's green! Let's go!
Oh, a lovely bright shade again!
Wait, that color.
What is it?
It's just that green. It's not the first time we've seen that color, isn't it? No, it's not. Hey.
Hold it!
It's the number of bullets that has you convinced.
Only 2 bullets were fired, and the 2 guns that fired them have been examined by the police. When the parlor maid asked me how many are invited for dinner, I always tell her to count the table settings.
Well, that's logical, I suppose.
Although,
Yes.
sometimes after dining, crockery does go missing.
1 or 2 guests, rather. Like the fine china. Does your employer dine with thieves?
So I suppose, if there was another bullet somewhere, of which we are unaware, I'd have to reconsider my position.
A 3rd bullet somewhere on the scene. Could that be possible? I can prove it. Allow me to show you then the 3rd bullet. 3, 2, 1, R.
Take that!
Here it is. We discovered it just now. Yes, on the night in question in Windy Bank's pawnbrokery, another bullet was fired.
Hold it!
What is this new trickery, you Nepalese conjurer? Where did you find that bullet? It was lodged inside Mr. Sholmes' pouch. What? This pouch was removed from around Mr. Sholmes' waist before he was taken to the hospital. And since then, it has been touched by no one.
Do you mean to say the shot fired by the Smoking Brothers that night?
Yes, as your lordship has surmised, it hit this pouch.
But that makes no sense whatsoever. You already know that the whereabouts of the bullet fired at Mr. Sholmes. This is clearly visible in the photographic print.
Ah! 2 guns from the scene have already been submitted into the court record as evidence.
Yes, that of Mr. Windybank, and that belonging to the Smoking Brothers.
And the examination of both guns revealed that only a single bullet had been fired from each.
Ugh. But that must mean
That's right. We now know that on the night in question, 3 bullets were fired. However, only 2 bullets were fired from the guns recovered from the crime scene. And until that incontrovertible inconsistency is somehow explained, we cannot and must not pass judgment. Ugh. Ugh. Ooh.
Order! 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 While this summation examination remains incomplete, the court has been presented with new facts. Facts that would appear to shake the very foundations upon which this case against the defendant has been built. As is my prerogative in this situation, I hereby temporarily suspend the summation examination.
By Jupiter.
What?
Bailiff, bring the witnesses back to the stand at once.
He can do that? Didn't know he could do that.
Witnesses.
Alright, computer. Calm the fuck down. I swear to God, if I go back to this recording and it's only like 30 seconds long, I'm gonna be a little pissed. Especially with like all the time I spent. We're almost an hour and a half in. So let me just give it a second here. I'll be right back when it comes back to normal. Alright, let's see if that fixed the problem. Nope, it's jumping right back up to whenever it starts overloading. We'll continue, see how this goes. If not, I'll end it here. We'll find out. I think my computer's just overheating.
Witnesses.
Governor,
Were you listening to proceedings while the defense carried out the summation examination?
we was, Governor, we was.
Perhaps we can dispense with the tedious preamble. Simply answer this one question. A 3rd bullet has been identified at the scene of the crime. What do you make of that?
Make of it, Gov? I don't make nothing but of nothing.
Is that one of yours?
Oh, blimey, Gov, God, blimey, not a chance.
In that case, did you have an accomplice?
What? Never! The Skulker brothers work alone. It's just the 2 of us. It's our trademark.
How soon we forget poor Skulky. Only 2 of the bullets from the crime scene originated from the firearms we have in evidence. The 3rd bullet was fired from another gun. Where is it?
Lummy, that's head scratcher.
Counsel for the defense.
Yes.
I should like to hear your thoughts regarding these new developments. The 3rd bullet, and the mysterious missing firearm from whence it came.
Thinking back over all the testimony we've heard and all the evidence we've seen, I think I'm starting to form a picture of what really happened that night. My lord, I think it's clear what the 3rd bullet tells us about the Skulkin brothers. They had a secret accomplice. They had to have. On that night, at Winniebank Pawnbrokery, the brothers must have been working with a 3rd man. The witnesses are clearly doing their best to cover up the evidence of this accomplice. But the evidence all points to the fact that there was someone else present. Someone carrying a gun.
Objection!
You're the person! An accomplice, you say? Pig swile. These protracted proceedings have already forced us to endure 2 summation examinations. Yet in all that time, there has been not a murmur of a 3rd man. If this apparently wraith-like being exists... The court must be shown hard evidence. Without it, this fantasy will be crushed. Ah! The prosecution demands answers on 2 counts. Firstly, proof, evidence, that this accomplice was ever at the scene of the crime. And second, the identity of this spuried character. The Skulkins are lying, I know that. But how can I ascertain the identity of the person that they're hiding? Well, counsel, I'm supposed to prove the existence of this accomplice, and reveal the person's identity even. In response to the prosecution's demands, my lord, the defense is... I guess I gotta be ready. Ready as I'll ever be. The defense is ready. I believe I can provide all the answers the prosecution demands. So, my Nepalese friend, despite the swimming eyes, you seem to think you have something to say. This promises to be interesting. Idiot sandwich. I have to push forward now. There's no other option. I need to use every single piece of evidence available to me, if it will make a difference. In that case, counsel, I would ask you to present the evidence without delay. On the night in question, in the moments leading up to the death of the victim, what proof have you that there was a third intruder present at the scene? My blood sample.
Take that!
The evidence is right here, in this portfolio. Right, Joe. That portfolio again, is it? Do you expect the court to rifle through your papers itself? Be more specific. You claim one of these blood samples proves the presence of the third intruder. Well, which one isn't? The green sample.
Take that!
What am I looking at here? There appears to be some green paint or such like around a bullet hole in the middle of the calendar. That's a blood stain, my lord. A blood stain? Green blood? Curious, even for you. Is the court to understand that the intruder was some unhuman creature? It's something developed by Mr. Herlock Sholmes. By the great detective! New invention! Stop! Not yet appeared in stores! Stop! It's this, you see? It doesn't have a name yet, though. This fogger sprays a chemical that reacts with the different elements in people's blood to change its color. Different elements of people's blood? Yes, everyone's blood is slightly different, you see, because it's made up of different elements. So by seeing which color it changes to, you can tell in a flash whose blood it is. Oh, that brings a whole new extra dimension of looking at blood. Talking of blood in courtroom. Stop. Very exciting. Stop. As an example, this one shows the blood of the victim, Mr. Windybank. Ah, a striking blue. Yes, so you see, the green color of this bloodstain on the calendar shows that someone else was shot in the main part of the shop. Now hold fire there, young man. This could be from some unrelated incident, couldn't it? No, it's not unrelated. The date showing on the calendar is the date on which Mr. Moneybank was killed. By golly. Therefore, we can assume that whoever was shot on the same day. And whose blood is it? Well, the Skulkin brothers on the stand don't appear to be suffering from any gunshot injuries. Which means it must be the blood of somebody else. The third intruder, in fact.
Objection!
Whose identity the courtroom is still waiting to hear. You can't delay this any longer, my learned friend. Who is this alleged third intruder? Well, I'm pretty sure the only other person that's not either here or dead. Egbert Benedict.
Take that!
Makes sense. The man's name is Egbert Benedict. Egbert Benedict? Who on earth are you talking about, counsel? He paid a visit to Windybank's pawnbrokery on the afternoon before the incident took place. when the accused attempted to deceive the pawnbroker into releasing this article into her possession. That's right. The man identified by the defense, Mr. Eggert Benedict, then attempted to take the article from the defendant by force.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Oh my god, I'm about to punch my PC. AKA laptop.
Yes, sir. I believe this filthy pickpocket thief has just redeemed an article from you, no? Yes, the article in question belongs to me. I demand for it to be returned at once.
Now that's a lie! What are you trying to pull?
Give me back my overcoat, you wastrel! And needless to say, any music box discs too.
Inspector Gregson was there at the time and can attest to what happened. In the end, it was the inspector himself who took the disc. Can you corroborate this account, Inspector?
Yeah, my lord. It's more or less what happened.
And in the interest of being thorough, I asked Windybank for a print showing the fellow. Taken from one of his red-handed recorder gubbinses. Yes, that's him talking to Mr. Windybank that morning. And you claim this man is the brother's accomplice? Well, Mr. and Mr. Skulkin?
Never seen the geezer before in my life? All my life, Golf, all my life. Never seen him.
Well, somewhat unsurprisingly, it appears our witnesses disagree with your assertion. I'm sure your lordship recalls my learned Nepalese friend's actual assertion, which was that he could prove the identity of the alleged accomplice. Yes, and I can. Then show us the evidence! I agree! We must see proof that the clean-cut gentleman in the photograph is the filthy criminal you say he is! Oh, we're having an inner monologue. This is the last piece of evidence. I've had a feeling that something has been missing in this trial from the very start. But now, I'm gonna drag it kicking and screaming into the courtroom. Are you ready to present your answer for the court then, counsel? Yes, my lord. The defense will present the evidence now. Proof that the man pictured in the photographic print was in fact the person struck by the third bullet.
Take that!
As I mentioned before, on the afternoon of the day in question, the defendant attempted, deceitfully admittedly, to reclaim this disc from Windybanks. Which is when the aforementioned Eggert Benedict appeared on the scene, I believe. This man then attempted to purloin the article from the defendant's possession, no? That's correct, my lord. I myself was present at the time. It was following this that a minor incident occurred.
But of course, sir. Here's the disc for you.
Very well.
Then I shall bid you farewell. Say goodbye to style.
Wait a minute. That disc is mine.
Ah! What do you think you're doing, you little tramp? You've drawn blood, you filthy animal!
Being a music box disc, it had countless small but sharp metal protrusions over its surface. Those protrusions caused Mr. Benedict's finger to bleed. And the resulting smear of blood is still visible on the disc now. Goodness!
A bloodstain, is it?
My assistant and I have just analyzed the bloodstain here in this very courtroom.
Using my trusty fogger gun!
Yes, and we added the results to this portfolio.
I say, it's great!
5, that's the girl, right? Number 5 is the lady, right?
It's exactly the same color as the blood around the calendar.
Right? Is it 5 or... Yeah, it was 5. 5's the girl. The lady. The evidence is conclusive. The man calling himself Mr. Eggert Benedict, who was in Windy Banks earlier in the day, is the accomplice who was present at the scene of the crime that same night.
So there was someone else there. Look at those two brothers now. They're sweating buckets.
Oi, what are you talking about? It's boiling in here!
My lord, it is the opinion of the defense that Mr. Eggert Benedict should be summoned to the courtroom to testify.
You would surely seem that we can ill afford to ignore this gentleman's apparent presence.
Objection!
This has gone on long enough now. This flagrant ignorance of the mechanics of law. Herlock Sholmes, you say? Yes, I've heard the name. The protagonist in a series of short stories for the vulgar classes. A god of detection or some such.
Uh-oh.
And now you employ chemical substances devised by this fanatical persona in the highest court in the land? Do you expect us to take you seriously? The samples made by this plaything are not fit to be called evidence. So the bloodstain turned a shade of green. What of it? Here's to you successfully proving that no other blood in the world would turn the same color.
Well...
And pray, do not even think of suggesting that we should take Mr. Sholmes' word for it.
Is he right? Is Mr. Sholmes' concoction a load of rubbish?
I don't know. I mean, he is a great detective. What are you talking about? We can't let him get away with that.
I knew we would come to this. Of course, Mr. Sholmes' invention isn't going to be recognized by any official body, but what other choice did I have?
I'm just remembering what Father Christmas over there said before. About how he was temporarily suspending the summation examination. In other words, the examination isn't over yet, is it?
Good grief! What did you just say, young girl?
Father Christmas.
And in a summation examination, the decision is to whether or not the trial continues. It is in the hands of the 6 jurors. Is it not?
That is true.
So, the way I see it, it doesn't matter what certain other people think of Hurley's invention. At least, not for now.
Yes! She's right!
Young lady, you have quite a devious mind. It really comes down to one thing. Whether these ladies and gentlemen of the jury are convinced by what you say, Bruno. Is it about right? Would you say? Or did I misunderstand something?
Unbelievable. Mr. Sholmes' partner is a force to be reckoned with.
Irish Wilson, sharpshooter.
Sharpshooter.
After that shrewd precis of the situation from an entirely unexpected source. It must be acknowledged that the previous summation examination has yet to reach its conclusion.
This is absurd.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the court now looks to you for your final leanings in this matter. As proud citizens of Her Majesty's Britain, I'm sure you will come to fair and just conclusions. So then, state your final decisions in turn, please.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
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 Not guilty.
Scales of justice are leaning in my direction.
2 calls guilty and 4 called not guilty. Such is the outcome of the summation examination.
Objection!
My lord, with all due respect, this is an outrage. The prosecution refuses to accept this decision.
On what grounds?
If these jurors are persuaded by some half-baked concoction devised by a pretender to real police work, then they are too ignorant to be trusted with the argument with the judgment of anyone's guilt.
I'm sorry, Lord Van Zeiks, but the outcome of the summation examination cannot be ignored. The trial will continue.
Ugh. No! Get wrecked!
Nevertheless, we find ourselves in a rather awkward situation. The defense has very reasonably requested the subpoena of a new witness. But sadly, I fear that will be impossible.
What?
The name the gentleman gave for himself, Edgar Benedict, is quite clearly false.
I don't believe it. Just when you managed to prove the man was there that night. Could I say something?
Who is that, please? Who spoke?
Oh, sorry.
It was me, my lord.
Juror number 5?
What have you to say, madam?
If possible.
Inspector,
Me, ma'am?
I wonder if you might show the photographic print to me again? The one in which the gentleman is shown.
Right, yes. This one, you mean? Of Mr. Benedict?
Yes. There's no doubt in my mind.
Juror number 5, you don't mean to say you know this man?
Yes, I know him.
What? No! Good gracious! Whoa, things are taking an unexpected turn! Order! Order! Order!
Juror number 5, how on earth? I am a communications officer. Stop.
As we can clearly see.
The gentleman in the photograph is... Stop. Also a communications officer. Stop. He works in my office. A very talented operator, in fact. Stop. He should be in the communication station now. Stop. Tapping away on the telegraph. Stop.
This doesn't seem right somehow. I can't put my finger on why, but it doesn't feel right.
I suppose we all imagine the accomplice would be some sort of hard criminal. It's a bit unexpected to find out that he has a respectable job by day, whatever he gets up to at night.
Yes, I suppose that's it. I suppose that's why I felt something was wrong.
If the gentleman is at London's communication station, we should be able to subpoena him within the hour. Lord Van Zeiks, if you please.
Yes, my lord.
Make the necessary arrangements with all haste.
As your lordship bids.
The court will recess for 1 hour. When the new witness arrives, we shall reconvene to hear the gentleman's testimony. Inspector Gregson?
Yes, my lord.
I should like to hear from you specifically about events at that pawnbrokery on the day in question. Come to my chambers during the recess.
Yes, sir, my lord.
Very well. Court is adjourned until 1:40 p.m. To be continued.
Wow, almost 2 hours long. So there's gonna be a part 3. Alright. We don't see those much. Yeah, we'll save. Alright, so... Whew. So we're trying to get this Mr. Benedict. Or whatever his real name is. To come to the stand and testify. Then, I guess we'll maybe finish it off next time. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe next time's the final episode, or not. Who knows at this point? If the video cuts out at any certain point during this video, I highly, highly apologize. I believe it's because my computer is flaming, and I don't want that to hinder you. Or if it does, I am so very sorry. Also sorry for the slight increase in volume. I just was cleaning my ears a bit. So, next time, the Great Adventures, the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. We'll maybe be finishing it off. We got our culprit, possibly. See you guys next time. Bye bye.